All right, let's get going.
I tried to start with landscape, but it wouldn't.
Welcome to the Southeast Beekeeping Club for our February meeting. My name is Mark Pomeroy. I'm the vice president. Woohoo! So this is kind of the turnover of the board. So I'm part of the new board. Thank you to all the old board that for the contributions over the last year. It's been fantastic. Our president is Peter Lund. He's not here today because he's down in Antarctica. So he'll be here, I think.
Checking his hives?
Checking his hives. Well, he can check his hives because he has also remote stuff. Mark, I'm the vice president. Our treasurer is Janice. She was in the tables coming on in. Secretary is Christine. She was also out there. And then we have board members at large. We have Christy, who I haven't seen come in yet. Brett over here. And Cynthia over there. And Cynthia is amazing. She's doing a lot of roles for us. So as that also comes into our club support. We have our equipment manager, Doug Wilson, over here. I'll have a slide about equipment in just a second. Our librarian, again, Cynthia. Swarm list, Tim Thompson and Cynthia. Our website is Christine and Brian. And our representative for the Parker Honey Festival is Brett. Our apiary manager is Brian, and Perry is also helping out over there. And hospitality host, wouldn't it be great if you got your name up on here? That would be so exciting. We are looking for a hospitality host. It's not a big responsibility. It's basically just kind of managing the area over there, making sure that we have the napkins and the plastic forks, and just kind of manages taking care of those kind of things. So if you're interested, please let one of the board members know, and we'll be more than happy to help coordinate that. Again, Doug Wilson's equipment manager. So the club does have a lot of equipment for to be able to be loaned to current membership. So you have to be a paid up member to be able to utilize our equipment, but we have multiple extractors, we have BVACs, there's some children's suits, there's a lot of really neat stuff that is a great help to be able to use. We probably don't have a lot of demand for stuff in February, but just so you know, you want to make sure that you call him. He has a flip phone that doesn't accept texts, and he's proud of it. So just make sure that you give him a call, old school, talk about what you need. Or he also has his email address here.
So if you call, a lot of times I can't get to the phone at work, so just leave a message and I'll call you back, or email is always good. Probably the best email to make contact, and then phone call for any adjustments.
Great. So at this point, I want to see hands of who is this your first meeting with the Southeast Beekeeping? Fantastic. Can I have you guys stand up? And I'm just going to have you tell us your name, where you are, what your interest in bees is.
Okay. My name's Heather Mae Kempsel. I live here in Parker, South Pinery, nearby, but I actually plan to keep my bees in Ward. I have some mountain property. Brand new to beekeeping, just starting out, Colorado native, so excited to, encourage some more Colorado pollinators.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I'm Sue Winterstein. I live just north of Elizabeth, a couple miles. Just always been really interested in bees, and Santa was very nice to me this year. So.
Fantastic.
Hi, I'm Alan Mullis. Never done this, kind of got an interest in it. I live in Parker, moved here from California about 4 years ago. So y'all need to educate me and make sure I don't do anything stupid.
Fantastic. Welcome. Yep. We are definitely a wealth of knowledge here, and we're more than happy to help you. Moving into membership, right now is a great time to make sure that you get paid up in your membership. It's $25 per family. That does include $7 into the Colorado State Beekeeping Association. So that also gives you membership at the state club level, which has a lot of different resources. Gives you access to our club library, which is fantastic. You're able to just check out a book, take it home, read, bring back. We have our club equipment that we're able to borrow, which is one of the reasons that really drew me to this club. That I love to use our extractors so that I don't have to store one because I have limited storage. We have in-person apiary events. So we do have hives that are located at the Parker Water District. And this gives us a hands-on ability to, especially with new beekeepers, to be able to see, okay, what is it that I'm actually looking at? How do I handle this? What do we do with it? How do I do a split? What is queen rearing? All this kind of stuff. We can do those kind of activities on live bees with other members of the club, and that's actually a huge benefit that we have. I don't know 100% this year, but in the past years, if you take part in the Parker Honey Festival, the Parker Honey Festival has accepted the club's insurance for members to use for their booths. That is a huge deal if you intend to have a booth and sell your honey or things like that, to not have to come up with that insurance. We have a members-only section of our website, and you should be getting the passcode when you pay your membership. That gives you access to things like the past meetings. There's a hive host template, so if you're going to keep your bees on someone else's property, it's a fantastic idea. I highly, highly, highly encourage to have a written document that just makes the understanding of what the responsibilities of both parties are of having your hives on someone else's property. And there's an example of that on our website. And also be part of our swarm list. So for new beekeepers, swarming is reproduction at a colony level. So what will happen is bees are doing great. They're optimistic about the environment, and their population is getting really big. So they start making a new queen, and then the old queen and half to 2/3 of the bees fly out to make another colony. And that is a loss of bees in your colony. So there are techniques that we'll teach you on how to mitigate swarming as we get a little bit further along in the spring. But it's also an opportunity that if you're looking for free bees, to be on the swarm hotline, to get a call and say, hey, there's a swarm in a tree over here, and you can go and get the free bees. And if you're looking to build wax, there's nothing better than a swarm to build wax. So that's a push for the swarm list. Our club is a 501c3 nonprofit. Thanks very much to Ann for pushing that through. And what that means is that any donations that are made to the club, whether it be for our raffle at the end, if we're donating equipment for a garage sale that the club may use, if you're doing a cash donation, that is all tax deferred. So you can get the tax forms from Janice and be able to have a tax deductible donation to the club, which is fantastic. Along with that is kind of a look ahead, is we have a bunch of equipment that has been donated to the club, and we're going to be doing a garage sale. We're probably looking at March to be able to do that. March to beginning April. We don't have a date yet, but this is a good opportunity to pick up some extra equipment to be able to help the club and to have a good social time together. We are partnered also with the Colorado State Beekeeping Association. And one of the things that has come out is in talking with the sustainability group, is the sustainability group is looking at doing a queen order of especially Varroa resistant or hygienic queen types for if you're looking to diversify your genetics in your apiary. There are a couple of different ones that are available. Hopefully you can read that. There's the Golden West, which is Randy Oliver's line. Old Soul apiaries, which are Caucasians. Corey Stevens, VSH. And with Corey, most of the time they're actually virgin queens instead of mated queens. So there are advantages and disadvantages, but there's plenty of instructions on how to deal with virgin queens from purchase. There's some from the Northern Queen Initiative and pole line queens. So if you're interested in purchasing these queens as part of the sustainability group, go ahead and let me know so that I can kind of coordinate it. So I probably need to know by the end of this month at the latest to be able to pass that along to the sustainability chair. Also wanted to talk briefly about the Colorado State Master Beekeeping Program. This is a fantastic opportunity. There's 3 different levels. There's an apprentice level for the new beekeepers. There's the journeyman level, which I'm in the journeyman level right now, and the master beekeeping. I'm super excited to be in the journeyman level. We learn all sorts of just crazy fun advanced stuff. This past year I learned about grafting queens, queen rearing. We have meetings once a month to get speakers from around the country that are the experts talking about bees. We learn a bunch of advanced techniques, and there's a whole bunch of members of us within our club that are in this program. And then if you're really into the bees, the master beekeeping is it's kind of a fairly intensive level where you're actually publishing a paper and you're doing specific research with your bees to be the master level. So, just because you start in the apprentice doesn't mean you have to go all the way to the master beekeeping level. It all depends on what your goals are, but I highly recommend it. I've had a fantastic time so far. I'm learning just incredible amounts in this program. And that program is available through the CSBA, which the membership, like I said, is included. So here we are in February. Fortunately, there's not a huge amount of stuff that we have to do right now. The bees have been kind of clustered and in winter mode for the time. There are some things that we need to be doing regularly. We still have February, March are the snowiest months. So you do kind of just want to make sure that you're kind of coming in and making sure that your entrances are clear so that your bees can get out. They still need to get out on cleansing flights. They still may need to get water. So you want to make sure that your entrances are open. You want to make sure that you provide water. Bees need water, especially as they're consuming the last of their honey. They sometimes need extra water for that process. You may want to do a tip check to see how much sugar and honey is still in that hive. And this isn't a complicated thing. You're just basically lifting it up. If it is still kind of heavy like a box of rocks, you're probably doing okay. If it just is really light, you may need to be doing supplemental feeding to make sure that your bees are doing okay. March is really that time where bees starve to death, where they've eaten through their winter stores and there's no flowers out in the environment for them to be able to gather nectar. So this is kind of a critical time that you are at least keeping an watch on your hives to make sure that you know what your food stores are. This is a time that is warm enough that you can pop the top and take a peek in, especially if you have a candy board or a shim and you may be doing a candy board or a fondant or some of these. We still are getting cold nights. We're still getting cold days, so you don't want to be doing liquid feed. The exception is probably a Boardman feeder on the front, but you don't want any top liquid feeders that will get cold at night, condense, and drip water on your bees, because that's what's going to kill them. But keep an idea on how much food is available. You're also going to need to start thinking about other types of food coming up for the spring. So are you going to be feeding pollen patties? Now is probably a good time to be ordering those so that you have it available. You don't want to feed your pollen too early in the season because the pollen is protein, and that protein is the trigger for them to start building up their brood. You don't want them to be hardcore building brood at this point. It's too cold, there's not anything for them to feed. They can actually overproduce to where they can't have enough bees to cover the larvae that are developing, and you can have freezing of that brood. So we're still a little too early to be encouraging that brood buildup, but you want to be thinking ahead of what is it that I'm going to be doing. Yeah.
I was reading about, reading up on this last week, and this is one of the Randy Oliver presentations for spring. There's like, once you start feeding pollen, you have to keep feeding pollen. So it's not a one-time thing. And because you all of a sudden start to build up, and then if that pollen stops coming in, or whether it's your patties or whatever that source is, it creates disruption.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to start it and stop it and start it and stop it. Because the other thing to remember is once you start it, the queen is now kicking back in her reproductive system. She is now developing her abdomen, and all those gonads are getting bigger. She's starting to produce those eggs. She's not going to be able to turn it on or off and on and off. So you want to be planning ahead, but it's a little too early at this point to start feeding high protein pollen.
What do we look for when do we start?
So some of it is reading the tea leaves. Sometimes the bees will tell you, sometimes they're going to do it on their own depending on what they want to do. So not this last year, but the year before, I actually had drones on February 2nd. So my colonies were building up their brood in January because we had a fairly mild January. Those particular bees were also really good at pollen hoarding, and so they had a lot of resources available, and they decided that it was time to kick in early. But if you go even a mile and a half away from where my microclimate is, those bees weren't really kicking in until really the end of March, beginning of April is when they started building up their brood nests. And then, it's kind of hard to tell. You're guessing. You just,
In the past, we've had those big snows in March.
yes.
And so I was kind of, when I think we're done with the big snows, that's right around April Fool's Day, that's a good time to start thinking.
Yeah, April is usually pretty reliable for starting to get that brood nest building up. So, it's not unheard of to have snow in April, but typically we're not hitting those really, really cold temperatures in April. And that's one of the big considerations. Yeah, Perry?
Something you might pay attention to is if you're using pollen and bringing in their own pollen.
That's true.
Earliest pollen that I know of in the Denver metro area was like the 18th or 22nd of February.
Right.
So you're not far off.
Yep.
But yeah, just if you're feeding supplements, you might want to wait.
The other thing is to actually look in nature. Are the trees starting, are the maples starting to produce pollen? Are we starting to see flowering trees starting to bud up? We know that natural pollen is coming in at that point. So we know that, that's going to be the trigger for the bees. Now, in some ways, if you have a strong colony at that point, you may not need to give them extra feed if we're already seeing a lot of growth in the environment and it's been a good winter. They may be able to feed themselves. So the thing about beekeeping is local and it's hyper-local. It really is your individual microclimate for where your colonies are that defines how well you're going to do. And it's not the same, even in a couple miles difference can be drastically different. I can't even talk. Yeah. So other things that you can be doing this month. Cleanup tasks in the apiary. this is actually a great time to be doing stuff. If you need to pull some weeds, or you need to do some landscaping or stuff like that, especially on these cooler days when the bees are not flying, they're not really going to be upset by you being in the bee yard messing with their stuff. So it's kind of a good opportunity to kind of do some cleanup and get ready for the spring, maybe re-level some stands, or if you're going to add stands, making sure that you have solid ground to be able to land this on. A big thing right now is ordering. So if you haven't ordered your bees by now and you're needing to order bees, you absolutely need to be ordering your bees. Are you still taking orders? Yep, so we have a couple different members that Kenny Fuller has Fuller Bees. He sells, are you selling both packages and nukes?
I am selling packages this year, but I'm selling them.
Nukes,
He's
okay.
selling nukes.
I know Christy had a couple. So one of the other things is to be or not to be, the bee store that was in Littleton has gone under. So they're no longer going to be around. So that kind of is kind of a big hit for a lot of people that was their local bee store. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Shava has, I think she's rising from the ashes to be, not to be, starting Blessed Bee.
The comments.
Yeah, do we know where that's going to be located?
Raising a
And do we
blessed
know if
bee.
it's going to be storefront?
She is somebody that really knows her stuff.
I know where it's
Don't know where
located.
it's gonna be yet, but-
She's ordering 500 packages along with her partner Greg, who I'm not familiar with, but some of you probably know him. I think so. And so they're gonna be delivering the packages to a place in Arvada called, I'll find it, it's a nursery. But then as far as, inventory goes, she's gonna be selling it out of her house starting in March. She's
Okay.
And unless anyone knows where retail space is, it's affordable and doesn't freak out when you say you want to keep bees there. That was what she said. So that's a place in Littleton that's now available.
Yeah.
That's been tried. That's still not so sure. Hang on, let me find my text with her and I'll tell you the name of. Oh, here it is.
We also
what
have
place?
down in the Springs.
Yeah, we have Rocky Mountain Bee Supply down in the Springs. There is Plan B up in Thornton. So there is still some bee resources around. One thing that I wanted to really point out, especially for new beekeepers, is watch out for scams. There's been a lot of scams over the past couple of years, especially on Facebook or through social media of, hey, we're selling, packages and nukes, and they'll more than happily take your money, and then when it comes time, they either disappear or they are, not delivering a nuke in an actual nuke box. It's just like a Home Depot cardboard box with frames thrown in and maybe a queen. So look for reputable sources for where you're getting your bees. Ideally, what happens is as you become better beekeepers over time, you're doing splits of your own bees and you're not having to buy bees. You may be doing things like buying queens for specific genetic purposes, but hopefully we can get to the point where we're doing more Colorado local bees. The other thing is look how many beekeepers are here in this room, right? There are other resources that we can use to share amongst ourselves. If you're, last year with one of my friends, we actually did a queen swap. So we were looking to change genetics in our apiary. So it's like, give me your favorite queen. And oh, by the way, what makes it your favorite queen? Because different beekeepers will have different criteria for what makes a good bee. If their only goal is to make honey and they can handle aggressive bees, that may be one thing, but that may not be what I'm looking for. So talk that over, but it worked out great. My colony is doing fantastic. His colony is doing fantastic. So it was a great way to help share a little bit more genetics locally amongst ourselves. And it didn't cost me anything. It didn't cost him anything. Yeah.
Are you going to have this up on the website?
Yes. This will come up on the
Question
website.
was it's gonna have to be on the site.
Yeah.
The nursery that she's delivering the package is called Finding Nectar.
Finding
It's
Nectar.
actually a really cool place. They sell just native pollinator plants that they grow and
Oh.
develop there, so it might be worth visiting. Finding Nectar in Arvada.
That's really good to know. I'm gonna have to look them up.
Finding nectar and Arvada.
Now is a great time to order all the stuff that you need because it's available. One of the things that you really don't want to do is come April or early May of, oh my gosh, I actually need to do a split and I have to do way more splits than I wanted, or I'm getting a swarm or something. And so I'm going to go to my local bee store and everyone is doing the same thing. They don't have boxes, they don't have frames, they don't have any of the equipment that you want. So now's a good time to order the things that you're going to need, and having extra is very important. You don't need to have a huge amount. You don't have to have multiple extra hives, but even things like getting just a small nuke to be able to manage 5 frames can be a big help in a short period of time. You want to order your pollen patties, especially places like Global Pollen or Global Patties out of Montana. They make a really nice patty with actual pollen as opposed to just pollen substitutes, but they start running into their crunch time on being able to deliver, so now's a good time to order ahead of the game. You want to be cautious of used equipment. So there is a lot of equipment that is available out there, people that are getting out of the business. They try beekeeping, they don't like it. Grandpa used to have all these hives. Grandpa passed away, and now I have all this extra equipment that's laying around. You need to be careful with used equipment. You want to make sure that you either know what you're doing or have someone with you who knows what they're doing. It's very easy to spread diseases from used equipment into your current apiary. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than actually ending up being worse off and killing your bees or having to do a lot of extra treatment in your apiary because of disease factors. There are ways to mitigate it, but once again, this is where the knowledge of what you're getting into really helps. If at all possible, either make it yourself or buy new equipment is the preferred method. The other big thing is now's the time to really kind of sit down and think about what are my goals for this next year? Is it going to be a honey year? Like Brian said, I'm going to really focus on making honey. The saying is you typically either make honey or you make bees. So it's kind of how you're managing your colonies for what your goals are going to be for this year. Do I want to have genetic diversity? Do I want to expand? Do I have way too many hives and I need to start thinking about a method of combining or selling off some of those bees? Just kind of what is it that you want to do? It's now a good time to actually sit down and write out what do I want to have during the course of the year? Of course, come fall, you can look back at that and say, that's totally not how my season went at all. So I look at last year, it was an incredible swarm year in Colorado. There were just bees absolutely everywhere. I was fighting swarming all the time. I thought I wasn't going to have a good honey crop. I was going out collecting swarms and doing stuff like that. I ended up having a great spring harvest, and so it was a complete surprise to me. It turned out to be different than I wanted, but it was nice to have a plan of what are the maximum number of hives I want to be. What do I want to do? Some extra education. That's a good time right now is to get some extra education, either taking a course, look into the master beekeeping program, checking out some books, reading your journals that have been stacking up that you haven't had a chance to get to, and really just kind of getting back into the mindset of what can I learn for this new year? What were the things that were learned by the experts over the course of this past year, and how can I apply them effectively as a beekeeper? Now's the time to inspect your gear. So, you threw it in the fall, you're just tired, it was done. Now's the time to go back and, that box is actually cracked. I have my pile of frames that I either need to repair or replace, and now's a good time to actually do that because I have time to do that. I'm not dealing with my bees. Looking at your suit, actually inspecting your veil. Do you have any holes that you don't want the bees to inform you come springtime that you have a hole in your veil? Now's the time to either replace it, repair it, do whatever it is that you need to do. Also things like cleaning your equipment. So I have a bunch of queen excluders that have a bunch of propolis on them and are kind of a little waxy and stuff like that. I think I have a slide a little bit later. One of the hints for cleaning is if I get another really good cold day, it's great to just set them outside in the cold and all that stuff becomes brittle and it just flakes off and it's super easy to clean. When it's warm and gooey, it's a major pain in the butt. So wintertime is a good time to clean up, especially propolis, if you can use the cold to your advantage. It's also a time to assemble new equipment and paint or protect the wood as needed and as you're desired. There are a lot of different ways to do that, and we're going to kind of cover that a little bit later in the meeting. And then we're also looking ahead at what is going on, with our bees, what is going on with your time, your plan, how are you going to document your hives over the course of this year? How am I changing from paper notes to an app? Am I swapping between apps and maybe taking some time to play around with them and get to know them a little bit before requiring way too much input with propolis on my fingers? I don't want my phone to be propolis or things like that. It's also time to be looking at how am I going to manage this period before that big brood up? Am I going to reverse my boxes? And what I'm saying with reverse boxes is over the course of the winter, the bees move up in your hive. They're following the heat, they're following the honey, and what that means is they've kind of vacated the bottom box. If we do this right, you can take advantage of that. In the fall, I tended to move any frames that I wanted to replace. Maybe they're old wax, maybe there's some damage on the frames, but not quite, it's full of brood, I didn't want to deal with it. I put them in the bottom box, and what I can do is take the advantage that all the bees are out of that box. I can now remove those frames, I can change out for some new foundation if I want them to build wax, and you can take the box and put it on top, and then they'll move up and build into that one. Now the key to this, and it's just a cautionary tale, is you can't do it if there's any brood in the top of the frames on the bottom box. Because what happens is if you suddenly reverse it, now they're way higher than all the rest of the brood, and the bees are not going to be able to cluster over those developing larvae, and that brood is going to freeze, it's going to not be tended to, it's going to die, and that's not what we want. So if you have brood that is in the tops of that bottom box, you're not going to reverse your boxes. That's just one of those cautionary tales that you don't have a lot of dead bees. And like I said, deciding when you're going to start feeding pollen, building up, and just kind of observing, spending a little bit of time on your hives. Are your bees actually doing cleansing flights right now? You should still be seeing bees fly on warm days. They should be going in and out. You're not going to have a huge number of bees, but there should be some periodic bees going out. You want to look at them. Are they bringing in pollen from some source or something like that? So kind of just spend a little bit of time, and not as much time as you probably will during the summer, but just kind of keeping an eye on your bees. Are there any other ideas of things that we should be doing during this time?
Make sure there's a water source.
Yep, make sure that you
sure there's a
absolutely
water
have
source.
water. A lot of times water sources will freeze, so making sure that, maybe it's in the sun, maybe in a darker container or something like that, to help having liquid water, because bees need that at this time of year.
I have a question.
Yep.
I've got two hives in my backyard, about 10 feet apart.
Okay.
On the back fence, the back to the back fence. My second hive, I put to the left, which is over to the corner where the fence joins. So it's more in shade than the other one.
Okay.
Should I move that over next to the other hive where it gets more sun?
Not necessarily.
He's got two hives and one
if your
stuffy, she
bees
moves it out in
are
the shade.
a strong colony and you had really good resources going into it, they're going to be able to keep themselves warm. They're going to be able to keep themselves fed. They're going to be able to make new bees just effectively. So usually it's not a big deal to try to think about moving hives. If it's a good location, then keep it as a good location. Just be aware that you are likely to see some differences, so that if you have one hive that's in the sun and one that's in full shade on a warm day, the one that's in full shade is still going to take longer for that cluster to break and be able to see some of those bees coming out. So if you're seeing activity in one hive and not in the other, but it's 9:30 in the morning, then come back and look at it a little bit later. Yes, Vince.
Yeah, two things. There's the old saw that you either move bees 3 feet or 3 miles.
Microphone.
Oh, I was hoping it was
Yeah.
another cookie. Those are great cookies, by the way. So moving could really disrupt their navigation.
Yeah, because what you can have is if you're moving a short distance within your bee yard, the bees that have oriented to that last location will end up back in that last location going, where did my hive go? And right now, we need as many bees to be in our beehive as we possibly can, because we need the remainder of that lifespan of the winter bees to really kind of keep things going.
Yeah, you had mentioned very briefly about filling up your cell phone. I read, and I'm sure I don't remember where I read it, that the bees actually orient themselves to the natural magnetic grid of the Earth. And there is some study suggesting that the electricness of your cell phone can actually be linked to.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so the question of electronics and bees, are you affecting their navigation and behaviors? I think that sounds like a fantastic master beekeeping topic.
I'm working on it.
For being able to look at.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and just take a quick break. You can, grab something else to eat, chat, answer questions that you may have. But let's go ahead and just kind of take a quick break.
10-minute break. I'll stop it and we'll be back.
Is Kristen gonna be here?